Thanks, Mike. Thank you for having us. As Mike mentioned, we were just elected on April 29th for chair and deputy chair at our state central convention in St. Cloud, and the past month has been a whirlwind. I think we were both here on separate occasions doing a bit of a candidate forum. So that was my first time speaking in front of this group, but as I've onboarded into the organization role as chair, what I've quickly learned is the Republican seniors are one of the largest, most active, actually the largest and most active affiliate group we have in our state, and that's a testament to Bob's leadership and now Mike. So we truly appreciate it and look forward to the continued partnership as we move forward. But Mike had asked us to come talk about, a little bit about kind of what we're working on. So I'll share a few things and then turn it over to Dave. But as I mentioned, it's been a month since we've been in office, and as you can imagine it's like drinking from a fire hose. There's certainly so much to do, but there's such tremendous opportunity for our party because we came off of a 2016 election year where we saw great momentum in the state of Minnesota. And we saw, red votes in greater Minnesota move up exponentially in areas that have been historically DFL, and that's been very good. So as we look forward to 2018, we have that great momentum to carry with us. So at the state party, we're really focused on three key things, and this will be our main focus for time. Number one is we need to continue to fundraise. Our party still has debt, we need to pay it down, but we need to rebuild our coffers so that we can get out there and run a strong plan to help our candidates in 2018. So then the second part of that plan is to run a statewide victory operation where we put offices all over the state, we get people going out on the ground, doing door knocking, doing surveys, doing phone banking, identifying voters, putting out sample ballots and doing things like that to support all the candidates, whether they're running for state house, running for Congress, or running for governor. And obviously governor is going to be the most important one for us in 2018. And then lastly, it's being able to build connectivity with our grassroots and BPOU organizations. Positive thing is, the second week on the job, Rick Rice, Janet Byhofer, our national committee man and woman, and myself went out to San Diego for the RNC spring meeting. And there was a lot of positive energy out there from Washington, D.C. and all the national groups about the importance of races in Minnesota. So our governor's seat is one that's being heavily focused on and hopefully will be from a national level when we get into 2018. And then 3 congressional seats that we currently do not hold, but will hope to flip in 2018, which would be Southern Minnesota, CD1, and then CD7 and CD8. So with all of that support and national money coming into the state in conjunction with what we can do, we think we'll be tremendously successful. And so I'll turn it over to Dave.
So I'm usually much less interesting than Jennifer, because I, as the deputy chair, my job is to, of course, support the chair and support. I'm going to take that microphone. My job is to support the chair and support the party as the activists. With things like sound and audio and things like that. Also, the data center operations, the insurance operations of the party, and all of the training is the things that, those are the things that I'm working on at back office. That should be the role of the deputy chair, just supporting the roles of the activists. But I want to tell a quick story, and we're happy to go into answering any questions that you might have. We have time for a couple. But I want to tell a quick story about the ring that I'm wearing here, because this is D-Day, this is June 6th. So this ring, my Uncle Howard was wearing when he was killed in action at age 19 in 1945 in Brest, France. Now, I honestly don't know if he participated in D-Day. He was an Army Ranger. He went over there, and it's amazing to me that he was only 19, and in the house that I grew up with my mom, there's a picture of him over the mantelpiece. And he looks older than me. I know I look pretty young. Like, he's always looked older, and I'll always think of him as someone older than I, and I've looked up to him, even though he died 40 years before I was born. My dad was in the Army during Vietnam. My grandfather was in the Army. The American Legion in my hometown is named after my great uncle, who was in the Army. So I have this tradition of service in my family, Army service. What did I do? I joined the Navy instead. I don't know, I have all this wonderful history and all these wonderful examples that I have, but I joined the Navy, and I tell that story just to say that we all have different ways of serving our country. It's in the military. I know that there's a lot of veterans in this room, so thank you for your service. But there's a lot of things that we can be doing to make our country a better place. And it doesn't have to always be in politics. For a lot of people here, this might be one of your only political stops in the month, but go out and be ambassadors for Republicans in your communities, in your church groups, in a lot of places out that you can actually show a good face and win elections for us, because there are a lot of ways to serve, and we appreciate everything that you have done in the past. I know a lot of people in this room have run for office and helped other people, so we thank you for that, and we want to work with you as an affiliate. This is, we've been to a lot of affiliate meetings, and the affiliate meetings are usually not well attended like this, so thank you very much for having a wonderful organization, and we'll take a couple questions if anyone has any for us. Or you want to just get on with your program? Anyone? Yes?
Where does the governor think he's going to get on his latest stance with the legislature?
Well, if I could read his mind, it would probably be a lot of gibberish, I think. I am not 100% certain what he wants to do. Some people say that it was good politics, but I don't think it was, because he attacked another branch of government by zeroing out their funding. It doesn't make any sense from a messaging point of view, and it doesn't make any sense from a political legal point of view. There's probably a couple lawyers in this room who agree that it's a constitutional crisis that he has invited, he has caused, and he will very likely lose that in court. There was, in the 2011 shutdown, there was the judicial branch. They immediately ruled that all of their operations, down to the lowest bailiff, they were all essential functions because they were a co-equal branch of government. So if that ruling, 6 years ago, is any indication, we're going to see what the veto that the governor did thrown up in court pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, he's helping us for 2018 by taking these erratic actions. So I spoke with a lot of our state legislators after session to kind of talk about it and get their perspective. And a couple of the senators said to me, we were transparent with Governor Dayton the whole step of the way. Like every time we made a change or there was something that was going to come up that was different, we were open, we were candid about it, we had the communication. So by the time it got to that final stage, there were no surprises. So it wasn't like they snuck things in. And so when you have a governor out there that agrees and negotiates with people, and these people are giving up their time from their families and their lives, right? One of our state senators, her father passed away when she was negotiating with Governor Dayton, right? So people have personal impact. So when you go to that length to try to work across an entire session to get to this point, to make sure that the state is set up for success, all of us are set up for success, you come to agreement, and then you have a governor coming after, line item veto one thing. It's absurd, it's erratic, and it's ridiculous. And I said that very vocally because last Friday, I sat on a panel with Ken Martin, the chair of the DFL, and that was the first question that came up, and I said the same thing. And then Ken Martin comes back and says, oh, well, you Republicans, you guys do this all the time. You try to sneak stuff in on us, and then you expect our governor to respond a different way. And I said, were you in that negotiating room behind closed doors, Ken? Do you know that the Republican leaders snuck stuff in and tried to pull the bait and switch? I said, because I wasn't in the room, and I'm pretty sure you weren't in the room, but I do trust the people that are leading our party at the state legislature, and I don't see why 3 state senators would call me up distraught and say, we went through this process fairly, and now he's doing this. I mean, people are not going to take that time to make up lies, and I don't believe that about our legislators. So he can keep being erratic. We only have to deal with 1 more year of him, and then we're going to turn this state red and get a Republican governor.
Who's in the mix for the next governor?
The question was, who is in the mix for the next governor? I assume do you want the GOP and the DFL? Republicans. So the announced candidates right now, major candidates are Blake Huffman, Jeff Johnson, and Matt Dean. So Blake Huffman is a Ramsey County Commissioner, Jeff Johnson is a Hennepin County Commissioner, and Matt Dean is a sitting state representative. There are a couple of other people that we hear names floated, but we have heard no other firm commitments, and I assume now that the legislature has to go fight Dayton's unconstitutional action in court, a couple of people, state house reps and state senate reps, will very likely have to finish that lawsuit before they announce their own plans.
And I think when more people announce and get into the race, because there will be more on our side, The good thing to look at it from the Republican point of view is the fact that we have all these tremendous candidates willing to step up and run for this. And it will be our job as activists and people on the ground to make sure that when we get to that endorsement process, that we're running a fair endorsement and a strong convention, and that coming out of that endorsement, we all come together right away and get behind our endorsed candidate. Because Democrats try any of these antics. We don't have time for it, so we need to come together, unite, strong as a party, and make sure we are all doing everything in our power to get our Republican candidate across the finish line, because there is no way we can take another 4 years of someone from the Democratic side of that.
The Democrats actually almost just, the 4 Democrat candidates almost just protested their fundraiser because Dayton signed the prohibition of allowing illegal immigrants to get driver's licenses. So the Democratic candidates for governor were going to stand outside of their fundraiser and protest that, and that's good for us. We have to jump on that and use that momentum on our side.
I have a question. How are you guys trying to get into the millennials' minds and help them understand who we are, because they're so liberal?
So the question is, how are we trying to get into the minds of millennials, understand what their wants and needs are, and then actually turn that into electoral success?
I would say they're not all actually liberal, right? Because I was a candidate for state senate last year. I door knocked in downtown Minneapolis, and it's all millennials for the most part. It's millennials and retirees. And when I went to all the doors of those millennials, what I actually found is they're not so much married to a party. It's just they haven't had Republicans come and talk to them about our values, about what we stand for, about how what we stand for aligns with what they want to accomplish and achieve in life. So in a lot of those conversations, and where most of my votes flipped, it was actually in that millennial population. So really what our job is going to be as new leaders in the state party, and we're working on this, is we need to put together strong marketing, messaging, and communications plans, like on social media channels in different ways, to reach these millennials where they are and talk to them in their language, right? We can't always talk to people in the language we're used to because it doesn't resonate with them. So all it is not changing our values or message, it's just saying it differently. And I believe that we can do that. And we have a great, our Young Republicans group, which actually Dave is a part of, our College Republicans, those groups have become stronger over time. And the more that we get people involved and send people out, it's going to help us.
Quickly, specifically to your question about what we're doing. So as Jennifer mentioned, I am also the outreach coordinator for the Minnesota Young Republicans. On the 20th of June, we're having a happy hour in Rochester to form a Southeast Minnesota Young Republicans organization. I have almost the whole board up in Duluth identified to have a Young Republicans area up in Duluth, and then we're starting an event in September in Moorhead to get a Clay County Republicans. So right now, the Young Republicans organization, which is 18 to 40, the Young Republican organization is very metrocentric, and we're trying to get outside of that, so we have actual things that are happening in the right direction in that organization, which is very good. Yes?
Do you have a website that these young people can get information or
Yes, Minnesota Young Republicans. I think it's mnyr.org or com. Probably not net. I don't know. MNYR, something else. I don't often search that. I just have it in my favorites, of course.
How are we set financially for all of this?
Where financially, the party still maintains debt. So I don't know where everyone was, but I think it was, we had almost $3 million in debt when former Chair Keith Downey took over 4 years ago. When I came in, and Dave and I came in, we were left with about $920,000 in debt. So we still do have a lot of debt, which I think is a drag on our party. My number one priority is to get rid of that debt. The problem is, where it becomes challenging, is in the state of Minnesota, we have a very finite group of what we would call big donors, the people that have the ability to write a $250,000 check. Well, they've been getting hammered by the state party, right? For the past 4, 5, 6 years, help us pay down the debt, and they see that we still have debt. So it becomes, I think, frustrating to some of those donors to continually being asked to pay down that debt. So what we're trying to do is find different ways to pay down the debt. And one of that is to get people involved in giving to the party again that have stopped giving for whatever reason. If we can bring more donors into the equation to help us chip away at this. PCR comes back on July 1st. That's the political contribution refund. So if you can all contribute $50 to that, you'll get it back, but that'll help us pay down the debt, right? If we get $50 here and there, we add that up, that'll help. But our challenge isn't just the debt, right? It's to keep the party operating, to keep the doors open and the lights on, and this has frankly been my biggest stress since I've stepped into office, because I knew what it was, but it's like every night I go to sleep and I think about it, and then I wake up thinking about it. We also have to spend about $60,000 a month just to keep the lights on and the doors open at the party. So it's on top of trying to pay down $920,000 in debt each month. It's also trying to raise, the $60,000 to $70,000 a month to keep the party operating, and then on top of that, to raise more money so we can do things like run a statewide victory operation. I mean, I have a very aggressive plan in place. I want to put 22 people on the ground this summer. I want to do it July and August for 8 weeks. It's targeting CDs 1, 7, and 8, supporting the efforts in CD2 and throwing a couple people on the ground in CD3 to support our congressional candidates and also set our state up for success for the statewide races. I want to put people out 40 hours a week, for 8 straight weeks, going door to door, showing up at county fairs and doing all this stuff so we can do surveying, voter ID, and all this stuff. So it's actually quite, it's a lot to do, right? So it's money to pay down the debt, money to keep the doors open, and then money on top of that so we can actually do stuff to help our state be successful in 2018.
So we can afford other audio equipment too. Please don't hit me.
So yeah, I would encourage everyone, say it everywhere.
Last fall, the voters approved a substantial increase for all 201 legislators. Kurt Dowd, Speaker of the House, put a stop to it. He said no. In fact, he even went further. He said, I'll probably end up in court over this. I would like to know, what is the current situation of that big increase for the part-time job that our legislators have over there? What is the status of it, so to speak? Is it definitely on hold, or did he figure out a way to put a stop to it? It was a substantial amount.
What I know of it, where that issue stands right now, is it was not budgeted for, and in the legislature, so this is regardless of Dayton's line item veto shenanigans, it was not budgeted for, and a lawsuit was filed, I think, a day or two ago specifically about that issue. So that's where we are at the moment on the legislator pay increase. And I have no legal opinion on whether or not that will be successful. It's a little bit more of a gray area than vetoing the legislature. So I don't know where we're heading in that direction. And Kurt Dowd would probably be more engaged on that issue if he wasn't, dealing with the Dayton line item veto. Yes?
I don't want to upstage Rick Rice. He's doing a good job trying to raise some money, but I think at one time they were talking about, there's the Elephant Club, and then they were talking about some other thing for people that donate $100. Only 10,000 people, 9,000, you'd have your debt taken care of. You got 9,000 people that donate $100.
So I did not pay him to say that, and what he did say, if you couldn't hear, was Rick Rice, the national committeeman, was going around and asking for $10 donations, recurring monthly donations that can get filled off of your credit card. And yes, indeed, we are bringing that back. We call it the Century Club with inflation. I think the actual name is going to be the Victory Club. And there are tiers of signing up for $10 a month or $25 a month to the state party that you'll get free merchandise. You will get a percentage off of convention fees. So if you're a state central delegate or a convention delegate, you'll get like 15 or 25% off of your convention fees. So we are going to be launching that in a couple of weeks, kind of to coincide with the political contribution refund coming back. Yeah.
But here's the challenge with that program, because Rick has been promoting it since last August. We've only raised $4,500 in total so far. So in almost a year, we haven't even come close. And so that's why we're relaunching it. And we need everyone to get engaged because it does help the party. It helps all of our candidates. But if we come out with this big launch and we only get in total $4,500, we're not going to be anywhere close to paying the debt, right? $4,500 doesn't even pay the rent for 1 month.